So I want to focus on this book right here. Jill Shalvis, Playing for Keeps, a Heartbreak Bay novel. We're going to do a book review, in case you haven't figured it out. I adored this book from the beginning to the end. It's very rare for me to pick up a book, and it took me a little while to read, yes, but my life is hectic right now. I've got a lot going on, and it seems like I'm just trying to work everything in. So anyway, back to the book. Let me tell you what the author says it's about and why it grabbed my attention. If you're planning on falling in love, when it comes to the confident, charismatic Caleb Parker, Sadie Lane feels the spark. The kind that comes from rubbing each other the wrong way. She's a tattoo artist. He's a straight-laced mogul. But after they accidentally co-rescue an abandoned dog from a storm, Sadie sees a vulnerable side to this seemingly invincible hottie. You better be sure. Caleb doesn't do emotions. Growing up the underdog, he's learned the hard way to build up an impenetrable wall. Perfect for business, disastrous for relationships. He's never worried about it before, not until he finally gets not until he finally gets behind Sadie's armor and begins to fall. Someone is there to catch you. Both guarded and vulnerable, Sadie and Caleb are complete opposites. Or are they? Shocked at their undeniable connection, can they ever admit to wanting more? That all depends on what they're each willing to risk. Now, right away, this book sunk me in because Sadie is talking with her mom about her sister's upcoming wedding, and on page 5, I'm turning to page 5. We're going to read it here. It's a wedding, her mom said firmly. You'll need a date. And anyway, you're past due to find your Prince Charming. Way past due. Mom, I don't need a Prince Charming. Forest animals who clean, yes, but it's a hard pass for me on Prince Charming. Everyone needs romance, her mom said. My book club just read 50 Shades trilogy, and those aren't romance. They're erotica. They were very romantic. Christian Grey's billionaire who falls in love with a regular girl. It's just like a Cinderella story. Sadie sighed. 50 Shades of Grey is only romantic because the guy's a billionaire, and if he lives in a trailer, it'd be Criminal Minds episode. Her mom sighed. I just don't know what you have against love. I don't have anything against it. Sadie hoped her nose wasn't growing at that lie. I just don't need it right now. Or ever. And then we go on. Because what really brings Sadie and Caleb together is the dog Lollipop, which is featured on the cover, which I didn't realize the dog was on the cover until I started reading the book. And I turned back to look at the cover and go, okay, where's Lollipop? I want to see a picture of this dog. And the neat thing about this book, you can open it up, and there's a picture of them and the Lollipop. And Lollipop has 3 legs, not 4, so she's disabled. But Caleb finds Sadie, let's back up. Sadie and Caleb together, they get this dog, and it's in a rescue situation. So they rescue little Lollipop, and they co-parent Lollipop. Caleb finds Sadie and goes out to see why Suits, which is her nickname that she gave him, has been over in the rain by the bush, and that's when Lollipop is discovered. And then there's like a cute banter that begins with Caleb, and he thinks he's allergic to poor Lollipop. So Sadie automatically makes sure that Caleb doesn't need his EpiPen, then wants to take Lollipop home with her. And well, Caleb doesn't really like that idea. They are like beginning to share Lollipop. And then Sadie takes Lolly, and Caleb, this is the most adorable thing, okay? He starts texting her wanting proof of life, which that means sends a photo making sure that Lollipop is okay. And it's so adorable. It's like this attraction that they automatically have, but they didn't want to say that they had it. And without Lolly, through this book, what would draw these two total opposites? Again, are they really opposite? Because they both are vulnerable, but yet they just don't want to believe in love because they have this past that they're afraid to fall in love. And that past was what was really preventing them from falling in love. And then they share this love of a taco truck, which ironically is a mutual friend to both Sadie and Caleb, and she confides in Ivy. And that brings out page 77. I know you guys love when I do this because you're always like going, now wait a minute, why is she doing that? It's because I want to really bring home the book and the experience, and I want you to go out and really buy this book or get it from your library because it's worth it. Okay. They're having a discussion about Caleb, her and her friend. Oh hell, he's a blank, right? He kicks kittens, doesn't leave tips, wears lifts in his shoes. Don't tell me he wears male equivalent to Spanx. Is there male equivalent to Spanx? God, I hope not, Ivy shuddered as she worked on Sadie's order. Honestly, he's just a good guy. Sadie shook her head, even though she'd been thinking the same thing earlier. Not possible. Nice guys are urban myths. They're extinct, if they ever even existed. Ivy shrugged. I'm inclined to agree with you, but one apparently survived. Okay. He's got flaws. He can't be perfect. Oh, I didn't say perfect, Ivy said. No male human is perfect, but in spite of his flaws, or maybe because of them, he is just really a good guy, and he'd be good for you. And it's like, aw. But we move forward from that adorable talk that she has with her friend Ivy, and we go to page 103. Now, this is a moment that really sticks out because they're at the vet. It's the first bill for little Lollipop, and she's not wanting any handouts. She's wanting to put it right now that she can afford Lollipop on her own. She does not need him. And it's just adorable because the slight problems that they do have, they finally get that. They both realize what was prevalent all along. It says read 103 and go to 104. So it says right here. As it pertained to physical custody, he said, but not monetarily. You've got enough on your plate right now, working 2 jobs and trying to build up your clientele. She's a tattoo artist, remember. He probably had no idea that he just stomped right on the rawest nerve and her secret fear that no matter how hard she worked, she wouldn't ever make it. Stepping closer, she poked a finger in his pec, which was a lot more solid than she'd anticipated. I agreed to share custody, she said, but let's be clear. Lollipop is the rescue, not me. I'm not a charity case. He grimaced and shoved a hand through his hair so it looked like he'd just gotten out of bed. It should have made him look silly, but he had the opposite effect. You're not a rescue or a charity case, he said. In fact, you're one of the strongest, most capable women I know. But, no, she said, stop right there. Nothing good ever comes after that, but. Unable to listen to reason, her fragile ego already bruised, she poked him again, harder this time, so that he'd actually hurt her finger, which caused a flare of irritation in his eyes. He grabbed her hand in his and held it tightly. Damn it, he did have an edge to him, and that was dangerously attractive. No longer dating the wrong guy for me, guys, she reminded herself. This is a bad idea, she said. A colossally bad idea. Okay, 104. The shared custody or getting the food, he asked. Both, but especially going to eat. Why? Because a guy like you doesn't. She broke her, unwilling to finish the sentence she never should have started. A guy like me, he repeated, doesn't what? What part of this wasn't he getting? You could have anyone, which means not someone like me. Wow, he said quietly, even through his eyes flashed anger, proving once again he was much more efficient at managing his temper than she was. Impressive. You just managed to insult both of us in a single sentence. She closed her eyes. Yeah, I'm real good at that. When I don't know what I'm doing, I lash out. I tried to warn you. She opened her eyes and gave him the truth at least. I think I do it to make sure I don't have any audience for the occasionally really dumb butt things I do, which I usually don't realize are dumb until right after I've done them. He surprised her by letting her out self-deprecating laugh, like he maybe did the same thing, which she highly doubted. Then he gave a little tug on her hand, which he was still holding in his, so that she was forced to take a step into him. You aren't conceited enough to think that you're the only one of the two of us who has ever made mistakes, right? Because we've all made mistakes, Sadie. This man is just unbelievable. And you can tell it's a book, because no man would ever say that. Okay, so after yet another firecracker fight, Sadie is having self-doubt, and she's having to tell herself basically, way to go, Buttercup, you messed up yet again, on page 159. Wait a minute. Or 139, sorry. Whew, my eyes are hitting the wrong thing. Okay. Yeah, she tells herself, there you go, you did it again, you ruined it like you always knew you would, better now than later. So she's trying to push him away, okay? And at first, he's pretty well pushed, I won't lie. 159, there's another misunderstanding. Okay. And he's explaining why he sabotages a good thing. Caleb is, because he don't like being vulnerable. And she tells him she doesn't either. And that her past is worse than his. And, let's see. That's pretty well good. 198, Sadie is talking about Caleb to her friends. Ivy, Molly, Willa, discussing Sadie. Should she date Caleb or not? We're finally getting to that point. Ivy tells her, go and have fun and see where it goes on a date. She walks by Eddie, who's her co-worker, on page 202. Oh, this is a good page to share. Eddie just grinned. Nah, you fit here, and you don't need to talk to the fountain anymore. Your wish is made now, and it no longer matters whether you believe in love or not. It's going to find you. Her heart kicked hard. No offense, she said, but that sounds more like a threat to me than a promise. Eddie just rocked back on his heels with a smile. Don't worry. And if you end that sentence with be happy, I might have to hurt you, she said. He laughed. I'm a lover, not a fighter, and you know what? I think you are too. No way. I'd rather fight than love any day of the week. Well, technically speaking, he said, some things are worth fighting for. Love is most definitely one of those things. His words struck her with all through the night and the next day, though going home from work and attempting to get ready for the date with a man, she realized that she was way too much. It was just a lot of pressure on the quote-unquote date, one that she was sure she would manage to mess up. Okay. That was page 202. A hot mess. That's where we go next on page. Are we sure? That was 202. We were going to 231. That's what I thought. Okay, yeah, that's the hot mess. Right here, she shared with him why she thinks they wouldn't work, and now he's going to share with her. Here's what I think, he said finally. I think that when you're uncomfortable, you look for a way out. You were uncomfortable with me from the very beginning, in the best way possible, meaning you were attracted to me, and that scared you. So you've been looking for a way out ever since. He held her gaze. A suit is my work uniform, Sadie, nothing more. It's business, and it's also professionalism and maturity, and to a lesser degree, image. I'm not going to wear a t-shirt and jeans into a business meeting with NASA, for example. Not when we're going to sit down and discuss future projects that could add up to billions of dollars. I'm not hiding behind my clothes, but I'm not being inauthentic either. He was right. And worse, he was authentic as they came. Whereas what tended to go for shock value, a fact that proved immaturity more than anything else. Sagging back against the counter, she crossed her arms and looked into his knowing eyes. It must be hard to be perfect. He laughed. Laughed! I don't know why that's funny, she said, and you know what else you are. Way too calm, which ticks me off. It's my black heart. So nothing gets it pumping, she asked. You know exactly what gets my black heart pumping. Let me tell you, that part's pretty awesome. Okay, so we move on to page 326. I gotta say, if you have never read this book, you gotta pick it up. It's that good. Oh, he leaves his computer open. And these two have both told each other they have a past, so it shouldn't be anything new. But his sisters went and did some background checking, and right here it's got her name, please read. He never deleted the file after he even knew about, he told her before about the file. Don't get me wrong. His sisters had performed this background check, but he never deleted it. And boy, did that strike a curve with Sadie, and basically caused friction yet again. And she just basically decides that they need space, and they go through this whole thing about dumping, and it's sad for a while, I won't lie. But then we go down the road and we hit page 342. Ivy and Sadie are having a talk here. And she's like, stop, you're going to knock something loose. Ivy slid her hand between the table and Sadie's forehead. Look, we both know we don't need someone in our lives to make it complete, but let's be honest, having someone who knows your dark and angsty side, and yet isn't scared off, she shook her head, is the greatest gift ever. Is this from personal experience? Sadie said. Ivy's past hadn't been good or easy as well. And not personal experience, Ivy admitted. It's from reading a whole lot of great romance novels, but it doesn't make it any less true. She's like, she's right. This was from the guy waiting on the drizzle from the Crema. My wife reads those romance novels all the time, and she gets good stuff from them, especially the bedroom stuff. And Ivy was amused. Good for you. And then she looked at Sadie. You got to follow your heart. And I thought, oh, that's so awesome that a friend was telling her, while you think that this guy may not be your Mr. Right, you're not following your heart. You're following with your head, who's thinking that he's too good for you and you're not enough. And it was just like, oh, just great. Anyway, moving on. Page 344. He comes to say he's sorry. Oh, my land. The best apology ever written. I've got to read this to you. She could avoid him forever if she wanted. They both knew that she was stubborn enough to do it. And the longer she managed to put him off, the easier it would be for her to forget what they were to each other, which meant he needed to get through to her now, right now, and make sure she knew that she was numero uno in his life, no matter what her past entailed, no matter what her future entailed, all in front of a live studio audience, because she was with other people. He drew a breath, deep breath. I made a mistake, he said, a big one. I'm probably going to make a lot more. Well, I'm male, and sometimes an idiot. But I'm incredibly sorry, and if I could take it back, I would. I love you, Sadie, ridiculously, and I think you love me too. And I think so too, someone said in the group. Hell, I love him, and I'm already married, someone else whispered. Caleb concentrated only on Sadie. What we have is way too important to blow on my stupid mistake, he said. I don't want to lose you. No one moved. No one blinked, including Sadie. Maybe you should say that part again where you're an idiot, someone helpfully suggested. He thought. Sadie bit her lip. Whether to hide her some amusement or agreement, he had no idea. But she stood up. Excuse us for a minute. Oh, man, she's going to take it outside, someone complained. We're going to miss it. No worries, the windows are open, someone else said. Sadie completely shut the windows hard enough to rattle and jerked at her chin at Caleb, gesturing to the front door. He stepped outside with her, and the last thing he heard from the inside of the door was shut was 10 to 1 his body's never found. Sadie had been practicing all her life, playing it cool, making sure no one knew when she was ruffled, much less down for the count, but her skills had deserted her. Caleb had not only admitted making a mistake and apologized for it, but he wanted to make it up to her. But even that was eclipsed by what he had said. He loved her. He'd even said so in front of a bunch of people. He wasn't afraid of emotion nor letting anyone else know about it. The magnitude that he'd chosen her had her heart overflowing so that she could barely breathe, much less speak. But she had to try. "First," she said, "you're not the only one who's made mistakes." She absolutely had his attention. His eyes held her prisoner as his entire body was still. "I'm not?" She gave a slow shake of her head. "I used what happened as an excuse to run away. And actually, that's a bigger mistake than yours, because your mistake showed faith in me. In us. Mine showed a distant lack of faith, and that's what makes it so bad, because it's not true. I have faith in you. In us. I was just scared." "Sadie," he breathed quietly, reaching for her hand to pull her into him. "I get being scared. What we have took us both by surprise. You're not alone there, but you need to know that you've told me about you and your past. Whatever you haven't told me about your past, none of it could ever change my opinion of you. If anything, what you've gone through makes me feel even more for you. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met." She stared up at him, afraid to hope. "I'm pretty sure I'm going to make a bunch more mistakes, too. It's how I'm programmed." "I love how you're programmed." He cuddled up to her. She looked over his shoulder at Lollipop, who was lying on a toasty, sunny spot, looking like she had no plans to move unless she was physically relocated or until she burst into flames. Sadie felt the exact same way, being in Caleb's arms. This is the best part. "Do you have any idea what you mean to me?" he asked. "Everything," he said. "You mean everything to me. I didn't know how to face the fact that I might have scared you off forever. I can't believe I almost let the guy I love walk right out of my life." "You love me?" And he smiled and he says, you do love me." She's like, "Maybe just a little bit." And then a few weeks later, after the wedding, and they have a romantic interlude, he's like, "So is this what you want someday?" And she's like, "Might be fun." And he proposes, and she says, "Yes." This book gets a 10. Do you know me? If I give out a 10, I do not throw praise lightly. There was just so many parts of this book that I was like going, "Oh my land, it's the be all end all." And I want to read more from this author. So this was the first book I think I've ever read by Jill Shalvis, and I gotta say, I usually pick out covers that have cowboys on it. This is the first one that did not. But I saw the couple and I saw the water, and usually I don't like water because I'm scared of water myself. But that wasn't what drew me to the book so much as the back cover. And that drew me in enough for me to want to read the book. So I hope you go out and read this book too. I will see you all again tomorrow night. I've got to go tonight.